So they encourage us not to eat too much, because that makes meditation more challenging. And then also we have to manage our posture, because if you're sitting for many hours like this, you may bring up pain in your leg muscles, sometimes in your back. So these are things you're learning about yourself, what your body is used to, what your mind is used to. Body and mind are related. But in Buddhism, we also are learning how they're related, but they're not exactly the same thing. Mind, the Buddha called nama, body rupa, nama rupa. And human being, the Buddha split up into what we call the 5 khandas, 5 aggregates, or 5 groups of experience. So the body is the first part, the rupa khanda. It's the most obvious thing. You can see me, I have a body, I can see you, you all have bodies. That's the rupa khanda. And there's 4 other khandas, 4 other groups of experience which you can't immediately see. Because they're mind, they're nama khandas. So there's feeling, vedana khanda. Feeling is the tone of your experience at any one moment. So pleasant, feeling, that's sukha vedana. Unpleasant feeling, dukkha vedana, or painful feeling. And then feeling is neither pleasant nor painful. Adukkha, asukha vedana. In Pali Buddhism we always put the word at in front to signify without, so without pain, without pleasure. That's just one of the khandas. Then there's what we call the sanya khanda, perception. Perception arises every moment, like feeling, vedana arises every moment. Perception arises with your sense contact, so seeing is a huge part of our life. We're always looking and seeing colour, shape. But perception is what gives meaning to that, it's how you remember the things you see. So if you've met me before, you might say, I see this monk, and you already have a name for me, Ajahn Kalyano, which is just a name put onto my form. You know, we remember this monk, this shape, this form as Ajahn Kalyano, different from other monks you see, perhaps. But that's the way you remember me, but maybe you've never seen me before, so you're looking at who is this person? You have no name for me, you have no previous memory of me, so your perception is trying to form its meaning in what you see. So you're saying, well, this is a monk, they call him Ajahn Kalyano. Or like yesterday someone said, oh, I've seen you on Zoom so many times, and now I see you in the flesh. You're different. So, I mean, that's technology, isn't it? Technology affects our perceptions, because when you see somebody or something on a screen, it's a bit different than in reality. I mean, the colours are different, the shape, the experience is different. But this is going on all the time, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not. Perceptions are forming and coming up every time we see. Maybe you have a perception around my voice. I don't talk with Singapore accent. Mine is a sort of strange accent because I was born in London and I lived in Thailand, now I live in Australia. So some people ask me, where are you from? one perception, the way I look. It's another perception. Or maybe you're not looking at me, but you see Buddha behind. And you like the Buddha, or it's different Buddha than you like. That's another perception. Just giving a label to the stone Buddha behind me is perception, isn't it? And so people are always asking when you have make a Buddha statue out of stone, or metal, or wood, carved wood, or you paint a picture, why do all the Buddhas look different? It's because the artist has their own perception of what a Buddha should look like. And we have guidelines from the Tripitaka and the commentaries, what they call the 32 marks, characteristics of a Buddha or a great person. And traditionally when they started making Buddha statues in the time of the Greeks, not in the time of the Buddha, he didn't encourage that. But afterwards the Greeks who loved to make statues, they came to India and they started making Buddha statues. So some of the early Buddha statues look a little bit Greek, according to Greek art. And then you have different artistic eras, so you have the Gandhara era, the Gupta era, and you have different eras, artistic periods, or if it's in Thailand, you have their artistic periods, or the Sri Lankan or Chinese, and each artist will produce the Buddha slightly different from each other artist. So now in the world, we have Buddhas, all kinds of Buddhas, big ones, little ones, fat ones, skinny ones, different mudras, which have different meanings again. But part of that is perception, isn't it? How people perceive the Buddha and then they'll create the Buddha according to their perception. How they remember what they think is important and how they try and put that into stone or art. So feeling and perception arise every moment of every day. So it should be something you pay attention to, shouldn't it? If you're always perceiving and feeling, that's something to take an interest in. So these 5 khandas are very important to us because that's who we are, that's what we are. And these are going on all the time, whether we realize it or not. And the next khanda, the sankhara khanda, is also very important because it's where we make all our decisions and choices in life. We call it volition. Where you make karma. Where does karma start? We all know the word karma. Oh, I have a lot of karma today, my boss is giving me trouble. Or I have a lot of karma today, I have back pain or something. But where does karma all begin? It begins with our mental volitions, our thoughts. So sometimes they call sankhara khanda mental formations, mental volitions. Formations implies it's where we create things, we form, we make things, we create the stories of the mind in the sankhara khanda. So everyone has a running story, and sometimes you're the hero in your story. I'm the hero. Sometimes you're the villain. Sometimes you're the winner, sometimes you're the loser. That's a huge amount of that is just what you're thinking about yourself and your life, isn't it? You're creating that story by stringing thoughts together. Perception helps, what you remember, what you think. Feeling adds some tone to the experience, so you have pleasant thoughts or wholesome karma, kusala karma always brings some pleasant feeling, or you have unpleasant thoughts. When you're angry, you have unpleasant feeling with that. So the feeling and the perception provide a bit of background for your mental formations. And feeling is often prompting your mental formations. So painful feeling you don't like, nobody likes, so it will often trigger different thoughts that we are reacting to the painful feeling. And then pleasant feeling we like. So a lot of our thought is about how to get more pleasant feeling. I want more, give me more, because it will make me feel good. That's one of the 5 aggregates, and it's a hugely important one because pretty much everything we begin to do in our life begins as a thought, doesn't it? You probably heard of the Dhammapada, you read the Dhammapada, and the very first verse of the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, mind is the forerunner of all that we do, good and bad, good and evil. Mind is the leader, mind is the chief. Everything begins from the mindfulness. And what follows on is the result of the mental formation that you had in your mind. So good mental formation, so like the thought this morning, I'm going to come and listen to the Dhamma and meditate. That's a wholesome or skillful mental formation. So you can feel good about that. You've already had at least one good mental formation today because you're here. However bad your life is, however difficult your meditation may seem, whatever's happening in the world, you know for sure at least one good thing has happened today. You may have missed it, that's why I'm reminding you, because we miss things, we forget things. But if you pause and you think, oh yeah, I must have had a good thought to get here right now. You have some faith in Buddha, in the Sangha, in the teachings, in the Dhamma. That prompted the thought, I want to go and practice meditation, listen to Dhamma, learn the Dhamma. So these are all skillful mental formations that have already arisen for you today. You may have missed them or you may be aware of them, but that's something to investigate. So the Buddha said, karma and all our action in life originates as a mental formation first. That's one of the Khandas. That's a very important thing to learn and become aware of. And the results of our mental formations, the karma we make, follow us all the time. So he said the good karma we make from the good mental formations follows us like a shadow. You walk out of here in the sun and your shadow follows you everywhere you go, doesn't it? And if you're a kid, you try and run away from your shadow. You can't do it. It's impossible. If the sun is up there on you and you walk wherever you walk or run, your shadow follows you. Maybe you fool yourself and you come in under the shade of a roof and you think, oh, my shadow can't get me here. But as soon as you're back out in the sun, your shadow is there. But a shadow doesn't hurt you, it doesn't cause you any trouble, does it? It's just a shadow. So the Buddha said our good karma follows us like a shadow. A shadow is lightweight. You don't feel it. So that gives you a taste of what good karma is like. You don't really feel it, you don't notice it, it doesn't cause you trouble, it doesn't bring you pain. Whereas bad karma, unwholesome mental formations, follow us, the results of them follow us like a wagon wheel, ox cart. When I first went to Thailand, they had ox carts in one of the monasteries I stayed in the village. They were so poor, they still had ox carts. And that farmer would ride his ox cart, sits on the back on the cart, and the ox takes him along the road, and he has a little stick and attach the ox, go left or right. Ox carts and ox wheels or wagon wheels, they're very heavy if you've ever seen one. So huge, really heavy with a metal ring around it. And one person can't lift that up, it's very heavy. And the Buddha said the wagon wheel, the ox cart wheel, follows you like your bad karma. So that's why when we have some pain or some difficult experience, we say, I feel so heavy today. You've got this ox cart pressing down on you, this wheel pressing down on you. So you're the worst kind of unpleasant, painful karma is probably illness, isn't it? Illness or accident. Someone was telling me the other day about this lady who went skydiving and the parachute didn't open. She fell 14,000 feet to the ground, but she didn't die. But unfortunately, she was paralyzed for the rest of her life. And that would be terrible karma. Doesn't happen very often, but for this lady it happened. And that's what the wagon wheel is crushing down on you. It could be a car accident. If you have a car accident where you're really injured, maybe life-changing injuries, that will be very strong karma coming back to you, like a wagon wheel, box cart wheel, pressing down on you. But sometimes it's just mental, unpleasant memories, traumatic memories, painful memories from the past. They're not physically hurting us, but mentally brings us a lot of anguish or pain. And maybe that keeps returning over and over again. So unpleasant karma, painful karma comes from unskillful mental formations, and it presses down on you like the ox cart wheel. Good karma brings pleasant results, and that comes to you like a shadow, so very light, unnoticeable, easy. So that karma, that khandha, the mental formation khandha, is a huge part of our practice, getting to know it. And that's why we need to practice mindfulness. That's why we need to observe ourselves, examine ourselves with mindfulness, clear comprehension, and wisdom. But it takes wisdom to sort out the good from the evil, the good from the bad, doesn't it? Sometimes Buddhists are a bit lazy and they say, oh, it's all my karma, as though there's nothing they can do. So somebody has just done something very unskillful, and then they have the consequences, and they just make karma. And on one level that's true, but on another level they're not admitting or not realizing well, you can change your karma by changing your mental formations. And that's why we're practicing Dhamma. You can change your karma. It's not destiny, it's not like fixed that you always have to do the same things, think the same thoughts. So you are all changing your karma by being here right now. And who are the astrologers most afraid of? Horoscopes. Who are they most afraid of? People like you. Why? Because people who meditate change their karma for the better and very quickly, and sometimes in a very good way, very dramatically good way. When you practice mindfulness, you let go of some of your negative mental formations, your mind can change, your whole life can change for better. And the astrologer can't keep up. Oh, they're going to have this happen to you this year, and this will happen, it's going to be like this, and then you go meditating, and it changes for better. So they don't like people meditating, because it's bad for business. I'm not saying astrologers are all wrong, and sometimes they're very accurate, they're very good, but they're relying on the fact that you're not changing your karma. So they're actually sort of invested in you staying passive towards your own karma. As soon as you start practicing the Dhamma, things go up. I used to look after Ajahn Chah, and he had amazing lines on his hand. You know, in Singapore, there's plenty of people here who will read your palm for you. They'll look at the lines on your hand and tell you how good it's going to be, or sometimes how bad it's going to be. Ajahn Chah had this one line along his hand that went all the way up to his middle finger. This kind of line in Thailand, and the Thai system of palm reading, they say, oh, this is his wasana or his barami line. And it just kind of went off the scale. It just didn't stop. You know, his finger stopped, and it's like the line would have carried on if his finger had been on. if the Ajahn Chah hadn't been his environment. We're here today partly with Ajahn Chah. I wouldn't have been a monk, he wouldn't be here now. He's not the only monk, the only teacher of Buddhism in the world, but he's had a huge influence in the world. All over the world, literally all over the world. And this is just one small little indicator. Had good lines on his hand. But it's just pointing to the fact that through practicing the Dhamma, learning these things and practicing, you change your karma for the better. So that's why this Sankhara Khanda, this Khanda of mental formations Khanda, is so important. That's where you're doing your work. That's where things are happening, good and bad. The last of the khandhas is the sense consciousness khandha, vijnana khandha. And that's again always at work in seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, feeling through your skin. And then the hard one again is the mind, the sixth sense, mind consciousness. You're constantly thinking, remembering, have ideas, images, all kinds of mental states coming into your mind. Your mind is knowing that. So it's conscious. So six doorways, you could say. So sense consciousness is very fast. Like the Buddha compared sense consciousness to a conjurer's trick, a magician's trick. Because you go to see a magician, the fun is that you can't work out how on earth he's doing that trick. It's so fast. So as you meditate, you'll notice, the reason we often will close our eyes when we meditate is just to reduce the amount of sense contact and sense data coming to our mind, because we're already overloaded. And why do people often feel very stressed these days is because they've got so much information coming to their senses. 100 years ago, nobody had computers and mobile phones and cars and air travel and going around the world like we do now. Now we have to deal with a lot more sense data through our senses. That's one reason why when you come on retreat, you're limiting the sense contact. There's no TV screen. You're not supposed to have your mobile phone. Whoever's got their phone on, turn it off, put it away. The food is simple. The living lifestyle in the retreat is simple. And at first that may take getting used to. You may feel it's tough, it's hard work, but it's helpful to you because you're reducing some of your sense contact through your senses, so you're getting a rest. And that rest is useful for us, it's good for us, because normally we're overloaded. That's part of the feeling of stress, it's just too much happening. We say, you say, your friend asks you, how's your life? You go, oh, too much happening. You go to work, too much happening at work. You go home, too much happening in the family. Go here, go shopping. When you go shopping, you come home, you say, oh, I'm so tired, because you've got sense overload. Buying all that stuff, or at least just seeing all the stuff, tasting all the food, seeing all the products. Sense overload. Or sometimes it's just nowadays, it's just you don't go anywhere, you just look at your phone for a few hours, scrolling and doing things. You get sense overload. And it's very fast as well. Like in the old days, in the time of the Buddha, you might get a little bit of news from some other village or town, and once in a while you hear some news. Nowadays, you get news from all over the world at every moment. It just points to the risk of technology, isn't it? I'm not saying technology is good or bad, I'm just saying there's a certain risk there because you're suddenly exposed to data and information from everywhere. And so you get people saying, I can't watch the news because it's all bad and there's so much of it. Every country in the world, every bit of people's business is coming to you if you look for it online. That's a lot of information to process. So we have information suffering, processing that information and suffering. A lot of news is negative, so it can make us very depressed or have a very kind of stressed feeling, or he becomes fearful of what may happen, anxiety. So once in a while somebody will come to the monastery where I live in Australia and they'll ask me if the world is going to end this year. I'm serious here, I'm not joking, this is true. People come and ask me, is the world going to end? What's going to happen, Ajahn? And I just say, turn your phone off. Do a retreat. Because sometimes it is too much, isn't it? You just can't process it. All this information, some good, you get a little bit of good news, but most of it is worrying news about unpleasant things happening around the world. So, this is another huge part of our life, isn't it? Every moment our senses are bringing us pleasant and unpleasant experiences. Where's all that coming from? That's coming from the other Khanda, the Sankhara Khanda is the culprit here, because you keep making karma, and then you keep receiving the fruits of your karma. So how do you receive the fruits of your karma? Your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, your skin, and then your mind. So even if you close off all your sense contact as much as you can. Like I once did a retreat in a cave for 4 months, completely dark, no contact. I get food given to me every day, and there's a little bit of contact like that, that's tiny. But no phone, no internet, no sound, no light, it's dark. Almost nothing happening at all, but my mind is still active. So even if you shut off the external senses, you've still got a mind that is bringing up thoughts and feelings and memories. But our sense contact is where our old karma is coming back to us. So what do most human beings aspire to? They want to live in a kind of heaven realm. We try to build heaven on earth, don't we? So we want to make lots of money. That's why everyone is trying to make as much money as possible. So you can have a huge house, like a palace, with lots of servants and big fancy cars, so you can have any food you want, and you can have parties all day long if you want, or lie on the beach all day long, whatever it is you like, you can have it if you're rich enough, powerful enough. That's what we kind of wish for, don't we? As human beings, we're all dreaming of that kind of experience. So that our senses have all the best, the most pleasant experiences, and then we want everybody to speak nicely to us. We want everyone to be kind to us, and friendly and respectful, and when we want to be on our own, they'll all disappear, and then when we are lonely, they'll all reappear just as we want. That's heaven, isn't it? You're getting everything you want, just like you want. And the food has to be just right, so it has to be as warm as you want, or as cold as you want, as sweet as you want, as bitter as you want. You want food to be just how you like. Every sense contact you want just how you like. That's our idea of heaven. That's what we aspire to. And that's because our senses are bringing us pleasure. So our wish is to have, we say, good karma, or the bharani, have all this pleasure coming our way. So basically, everyone would like to be a king or a multi-millionaire, have everything easy, and then have everyone around us all well-behaved and helping us and speaking nicely to us and being respectful to us and no problem with anyone, anywhere. Because then our senses would be just right. But it doesn't work, does it? The human senses can't just give you pleasure, because the nature of this realm we live in, even if you are a multi-millionaire, king or queen or whatever, you still got your senses to deal with, and sometimes they bring you some pain, don't they? It's not like you're a multi-millionaire or president or king or queen and you don't have any kind of painful experiences. You do. You might not admit it, or you might not realize it, or you might try and escape from them, but they're still there, aren't they? Because you've got a body. At the very least, your body is going to give you some painful experiences as you get older. Even queens and presidents get COVID. Everyone in the world gets ill sometimes. Everyone in the world has to die. All the pleasures of this world, they don't last. So how do you experience pleasure? It's through your senses. Your senses can't give you constant pleasure. It just doesn't work. It doesn't happen. That's not natural. Sometimes people try for that, so that when you meet somebody who's addicted to really powerful drugs like heroin, they're just trying to get to a high all the time, but it doesn't work because they come off their high and then they have horrible withdrawal symptoms, and their body feels worse than before. Or alcohol is the same. Alcoholics, they keep drinking to try and feel high and happy, but then it wears off. Or if you eat your favorite food, you're happy eating, but then after a while you feel full. You have to stop because it's painful, or you get bored. So even the most pleasant thing that you have after a while can become boring, or even turn into something unpleasant because you had too much of it. You have that phrase, too much of a good thing. So our senses are limited. That's why actually the Buddha said it's a good thing to be born as a human being, because you can see the true nature of reality very easily. Just sitting here where you have pleasure and pain alternating through the day, you feel energized and you feel tired. You sit down, you feel comfortable, but then later you may feel a bit of pain. You feel hungry, then you feel full. You eat too much, you feel overfull. Your senses and your experience is changing all the time, pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain. And for the unenlightened person, we're always kind of on the run from that, trying to find more pleasure and get away from the pain. So life often feels like we're kind of constantly running, constantly moving. So it can be quite tiring, quite stressful. So the Buddha said the nature of these 5 khandhas that we're looking at here is that they're stressful, they're dukkha. The more we attach to them with ignorance, without awareness, without mindfulness, the more we experience stress and dukkha. What is the thing that people fear most of all in their lives? It's probably death, isn't it? Everyone's afraid of death, no one wants to die. Where does that come from? It comes from attachment to this body, these mental khandhas, what we call nama rupa, these 5 khandhas. This is what we fear losing. Nobody wants to die. So we fear death, number one. We fear pain, so we fear illness or accident. Or then all the kind of mental pain. We fear being criticized, or losing our reputation, or losing our power or influence, or our money. Or even in meditation, some people fear losing their samadhi. And if you haven't got any samadhi, then you don't fear losing it yet. Maybe your fear is that you'll never get it, perhaps. But even the pleasure of meditation, we can fear losing it, can't we? Or when you do lose it, then you get stressed, hoping to get it back again. And many meditators suffer because they had a very peaceful meditation, and then later on, that fades, they lose it, they're scattered, or they become caught up in something, so their concentration is gone. And then they spend a lot of time trying to get back that experience that they had before. So even as we practice meditation, these khandhas are at work showing us that things are stressful. Even meditators can find stress in their meditation or from their meditation if they're not watching carefully. So the Buddha called these 5 khandhas upadana khandha. You've probably heard the word upadana. It means clinging or attachment. It's khandhas that are the basis for clinging. So we cling to the body. When I say cling, I mean identify with it as me, mine, myself. So basically we feel like we own this body. I was saying yesterday, when you cut your hair, why is it once your hair is cut, you don't want that hair? When it's on top of your head, you want it. When it's gone, you don't want it. The same hair, but your perception changes, doesn't it? Really, if you could see it before you cut your hair, already it's not self. That's if you have real insight, you'll see these 5 khandas are not a self. But the unenlightened mind just assumes they are. So we wake up in the morning and am I still here? Touch yourself. And straight away you kind of slip into your body and you have the feeling, this is me, my body. And that's understandable and everything reinforces it. We have a name and we have our personal history and our character, we do things, and we use this body like we use a car. Your car is there and you go out places in your car because it's a useful thing to get you around. And you just assume this is my car. In the same way our mind is assuming this is my body. Actually, a car and a body are much the same thing, 4 elements. The Buddha, in the time of the Buddha, they didn't have cars, but they had chariots. So the Buddha said it's like a chariot. We say it's like a car. But a car doesn't last forever, does it? It's old and then you have to sell it or scrap it. Sometimes it has a car crash, car accident. Body is the same. Then the 4 Dharma khandas, feeling, perception, thought formation, sense consciousness, are also the same. We assume they're me. I am my thoughts. I am my feelings. I am my perception. I am my sense consciousness. But because these 5 khandas are subject to change, constantly changing, because they're not self, you can't control them, you can't make them do what you want, then they're dukkha. That's stressful. Having a body is stressful. Believing your body to be you is stressful because your body doesn't do what you want. You want it to be healthy, but sometimes it's sick. You want it to feel good, sometimes it feels tired or aches and pains, hungry, too hot, too cold. Sometimes you're suffering with the way it looks. You look in the mirror, blemishes, your body is too fat, too thin, too tall, too short, too old, too wrinkled, whatever. We suffer with the way it looks, the way it feels, because of the clinging. And the same with our feelings. We all want the pleasant feelings and we don't want the painful feelings. But these are conditioned things. They arise and they're always changing depending on the conditions. And that's something the Buddha said to investigate. Investigate the body, ask the question, is it a self? Feelings, are they really my feelings? Or do they arise and pass away depending on the different conditions? So, say you had breakfast, so if you had some nice food for breakfast, you taste it, nice feeling, you enjoy that. But say that particular kind of food didn't arrive, you may have some other food that is more average or not so attractive to you, then you won't get that feeling. It depends on having the food, your tongue working, and you eat. Also depends on paying attention, doesn't it? Some people, they're eating their favourite food, enjoying it, and then someone talks to them, oh, it's over there, and they're no longer with that pleasant feeling. Some people even complain, don't they? They're eating their favourite food, and someone talks to them, and they don't talk to me now. I'm enjoying myself. But it can change very quick, can't it? You just move your eyes away, or your attention goes elsewhere, and the pleasure of eating, or any other kind of pleasure, suddenly disappears, doesn't it? Pops into your experience and then pops out again. It's that fast. So we said feeling is a conditioned thing. Body is a conditioned thing. Feelings, conditioned. Perceptions, thought formations are conditioned things. And that's why when we're meditating now, we are particularly working with these mental formations, the karma-producing mental formations, because that's where you can really change your life for the better, improve your life. If you have one moment of mindfulness, there's already one improvement in your life. It's one little step up for you. The Buddha said mindfulness is always good, always beneficial for you. So you're proving that right here, doing your practice. You're noticing when you're mindful, you're a little bit more aware, more calm. And the reason we practice mindfulness is so that our wisdom, what we call panya, can work well. Because when you can pay attention, then you can learn from your experience and understand it better. So that if you practice mindfulness, so you practice mindfulness of breathing, or when we're walking meditation, we're doing walking meditation mindfully with our feet, or reciting Buddha, or when you're lying down, you can practice mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness in the lying down posture, and you see the reclining Buddha. The Buddha is very mindful, lying down with his head on his hand like that. Or just standing up, you can practice mindfulness. In every posture, standing, sitting, lying down, or even in what we call sub-postures or minor activities, we practice mindfulness in this quality called clear comprehension. Samajanya. Sati Samajanya are like a pair that work together. So in a minor posture or sub-posture, what do you do? Or maybe you're turning, or you're bending, or you're chewing food, lifting your hand up, chewing food. All of these are still the postures of the body that you can bring out mindfulness. Yesterday I was mentioning about brushing your teeth with mindfulness, you don't swallow your toothbrush. Eating your food is the same. Some people are eating their food and talking at the same time, so then they bite their spoon, or they bite their tongue, or they choke, or they try to do too many things at one go, and so they make a mistake. These sub-postures are important as well. The Buddha said every part of your daily life is an opportunity to bring out mindfulness. Bathing, going to the toilet, washing your clothes, driving your car, all of it is part of your practice. So there's never an activity that you cannot bring out mindfulness and clear comprehension. So as you practice mindfulness, the next thing is bringing up the understanding or the wisdom, the panyas, and directing attention to one aspect or more of these five khandhas. And the Buddha said these five khandhas are anicca. I don't know if you did the morning chanting just now, but we chant Rupam anicca, Vedana anicca, Sanya anicca, Sankhara anicca, Vijnana anicca. Form is impermanent, it's changing. Feeling is impermanent, it's changing. Perception is changing, mental formations are changing. What shows us that is mindfulness. When you're mindful, you notice how feelings arise, pass away, notice changes in your body and the sensations of the body. You notice thoughts coming and going, arising, passing away. So the more you practice, the more you become familiar with the changing nature of these five khandhas, and that's teaching you something. It's teaching you that these five khandhas, they're impermanent in their nature, they're always changing. So in that sense, they're not very reliable. The only reliable thing you can say about these five khandhas is that they change. Like, can you predict in 1 minute from now how you will feel? Very difficult. You make a prediction, but how accurate will it be? Very hard to say. What are you going to be thinking 5 minutes from now? I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, when is he going to stop talking? in one day, anytime, not just here, anytime, you can say, what will I experience in 5 minutes from now? You can't say with absolute certainty how your body will feel, what thoughts will be arising, what feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, will happen. Because you've already noticed it, I'm sure, in your life. It seems just pop up all the time, don't they? A thought pops up into your mind, or memory. Where did that come from? Things are constantly changing, they're arising. There are causes that have led up to those things arising. That's karma. Back to karma again. Your 5 khandas are the product of your karma. So if you're not happy with the way you look, your body, how it looks, blame yourself. Because it's the product of your past karma. Where you were born, who your parents are, where you were born, how healthy or unhealthy your body is, how it looks, the experiences you have, physical experiences, and this is product of your karma. It's another thing that's kind of confusing in the world now is because everyone's moving so much. We've moved house, we've moved jobs, we've moved countries. Many times even in one life, so that's a lot of change. It puts more stress on us and we do all of that. And then the feelings we experience, the thoughts that pop up, and this is all subject to change. Conditioned things, we say, depending on our karma. So good karma, good results, pleasant results. Bad karma, unpleasant results. And so many of you have already noticed people have been asking the question. When you're meditating, you have a really unpleasant memory pop up into your mind. You become very still and quiet, and suddenly you remember something you said before, or something that happened before, and you feel guilty, you feel uncomfortable with yourself, or angry, or sad. Oh, this is karma, isn't it? Sometimes your karma will pop up at the most awkward moment, just when you don't want it to come. You're just meditating really peacefully and you suddenly remember something that you did or said that you're very unhappy with. Or maybe you go into a job interview, you've got to focus on your job interview, and then suddenly you have strange memories and thoughts come up. Or you're just talking to somebody and suddenly this strange thought comes into your head. It happens, doesn't it? Memories, thoughts, karma can be very unpredictable, pop up. Or you're driving your car and suddenly somebody bumps into you. You didn't plan that, you didn't ask for that, but it happens. The world changes. Obviously the bigger world, the wider world is constantly changing, far beyond our control. We can't control what happens between governments and what happens in the economy and society. We don't have much influence on that. Even if you were in the government, running the government, you still can't control everything, can you? For ordinary people, there's many events in the world completely beyond your control. But you don't have to worry too much about all that. You just come back to your own 5 khandas. Already that's plenty to learn from and realize you only have a certain level of control over these. But where we can get some understanding is through practicing mindfulness and observing and learning the way things are. So I had somebody the other day that came to me and said, they're having a crisis in their life. I won't go into the details. But I was saying, you've meditated before, haven't you? They said, yes. I said, when you meditate, you do the breathing meditation, mindfulness breathing, breathe in, breathe out. You're used to that, aren't you? They said, yes. When you have a crisis come up, everything is going wrong, everything's falling apart, you can still go back to the breath. In that moment when you're feeling overwhelmed by the crisis, maybe start by just establishing mindfulness with the breathing. And whether you're having a crisis or you're not having a personal crisis, you can still watch your breath. That's a very simple technique to help you deal with some of the challenges of life. You go back to the breath, establish mindfulness, maybe you feel a little bit more calm, more peaceful in that moment. And then maybe your mind can have a look and see what needs to be done in that situation. So, sometimes a crisis, all you can do is be patient. When you practice mindfulness breathing, that gives you the knowledge that you need to be patient. Or sometimes there's something you need to do. You need to act to solve a problem or go out and do something. Okay, but when you establish mindfulness, it gives you a very firm footing for your mind. Mindful of the breath, whatever feelings you're experiencing based on that crisis, it's just a feeling, it arises, passes away. Then your mental formations can maybe come up in a more skillful way because you're more mindful, you're calm, and then you can find a problem, a solution to your problem, or at least what you must do in that situation. So this is why the Buddha encourages us to practice mindfulness and then contemplate these 5 khandas. Bring your attention back to the present moment. That's where we find real peace, is in the present moment. And when our wisdom is seeing how things are impermanent, what's impermanent is stressful, and it's not self. And then you get some wisdom. That wisdom is also not self, but it helps you to understand where your attachments and your clinging comes up. Helps you to see that that's where suffering comes from. So this morning I'll just give you a bit of background to the Buddha's teachings, because we need that sometimes. People are always thinking, what am I doing? I'm on retreat. What am I doing here? Okay, well, we're cultivating this noble eightfold path, particularly developing mindfulness and then wisdom directed to our own body and mind. This body and mind we call the 5 khandas. And we're looking and observing to see the true nature of these 5 khandas, and that is that they are impermanent, they're stressful, they're not a self. And when you're mindful, you can see that, at least partially or temporarily, you might see that, and that helps to educate your mind in what we call right view, to understand more clearly the way things are. And you get a lot of peace from that. Peace is not getting rid of your body. If you can't do that, you can't get rid of your mind, but you can understand the way it is. And when you understand the way it is, you get some peace there. So maybe you have some unpleasant memories. That's just the way it is. They arise, they pass away. You have some pain in your body. Oh, that's just the way it is. Bodies get painful. It's just like that. This is the way we can use wisdom to understand our experience and free our mind from all the stress and suffering. So maybe I'll leave the talk there now.